Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to be working on this akamatsu or Japanese red pine. Normally you'll find that Japanese red pine are styled in a bunjin or literati style, but as you can see this one has actually got a very substantial trunk. Part of the work that I need to do today is remove all the old needles, 3-year-old needles, that are dying here, turning brown. It's perfectly natural, but we want to clean that out because obviously that can harbor pests and of course can also reduce the amount of sunlight getting into the tree. And then we also have a lot of these long shoots, very leggy shoots, and I'm going to be looking at where I can cut them back and then develop those smaller shoots over the coming growing season. Just to give you a time frame on when I'm doing this work, it's late winter. And as you can see, the buds have already set, and these are the spring buds that will develop into spring candles. So I think the work that I'm going to start with is moving from the apex of the tree down to the bottom and cutting out or removing this these excessively long branches and looking for, well, that will be dictated to me by what is available lower down on the branch. Otherwise, what I'm probably going to do is just cut the branch back to a set or sets of needles, and new buds can then form there during the course of the spring. So for doing that, ideally it would have been better to have already done this work in autumn, but the tree was not given to me until now, and I don't want to allow the tree to develop over spring and summer without being cut. And because the inner growth is going to, there's a few spots on the tree that is already dying or weak, and that's going to get progressively worse. So at this point in time, I'm going to cut and make some pruning decisions and then allow that growth to develop, as I say, over the growing season ahead. Let me just give you some insights into what I'm looking at with the pruning that I'm doing. So obviously this tree is still very much in a structural development phase, or maybe secondaries, but you can see that it's been grown a bit clip and grow, I would imagine. So you've got a lot of inner shoots or inner growth here, but there's very often a congestion of growth. So what I'm doing here now is I'm trying to compact the canopy of the tree. Well, what I'd like to do is to keep the most delicate and shortest, or the shortest internodes and the most delicate branching. So something like this with this strong growth here is not necessarily, you can see that, that's not ideal. So I don't really want to keep that. And there is branches lower down, or below that, which are also a little bit more delicate, and they also have some ramification. So what I'd like to do is just first start off with sorting out this congestion by cutting this away. All right. So now we're left with these 3 shoots. And as you can see over here, there is some branching here. So there's a bud that we can work with, and I'm going to prune that back to there. I can actually prune it back to the next one, which is this bud here. But if I have, the more needles I have, the stronger this shoot is going to grow. And so what I'd prefer to do for now is just to keep both and then cut back to this one, which will shorten this internode even further, but to do that based on the response from the tree in the growing season ahead. And now I have this very long leggy growth here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to prune that back down to this shoot that is below it here, which is this one, and this is much shorter, and obviously that can now develop into a branch. So let's look at another example. Here's another branch coming out from the primary branch here, and we have the first branch, first fork in the branch is this one here, but this is terribly long. There's no ramification of this, but then just above it we have, as the branch continues, we've got several buds or young branches to work with. So I'm going to cut this bottom one out and now substitute it with these. And obviously at the same time, when you're working through this, you're going to be looking for areas where you've got 2 or more branches coming out from a single point, and you're going to be cutting back to 2. Yeah, we have a primary branch going out to the, well, that'll be to the right if you were looking at the tree from the front. And then we have this branch that's coming straight to the back, but there is another primary or main structural branch over here, and this is, they are bumping into each other. So there's actually no space for this back branch to develop in. And so I'm going to remove this structural piece over here. So once again, let's go through here. Firstly, there's some dead growth that we can immediately eliminate. Now we've got a nice short internode, delicate over here, so we'd like to keep that. The one adjacent to it is quite a bit longer, so we're just going to cut that, leaving a number of needles on the tip, and then we should get budding at that area. And we're going to keep that. This branch is not ideally placed coming out next to it there, but for the moment we'll keep it and then see what happens in the future if we get a better branch. This one that's just below this one is way too long and thick, so we're going to remove that, and we've got growth below that, so we've got more to work with. Here we're going to cut back to a bunch of needles, and the same just below it because there's no other buds to cut to. And then on these ones here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 shoots all coming out to the same cut site. What's very typical with Japanese red pine is that when you do decandle them, they have a tendency to form multiple buds if they're quite strong. So you need to remove them and remove the excess and only keep 2. Otherwise, you're going to get situations like this all the time. So yeah, I'm going to select the ones that are in the best, sort of at best angles, and the ones that ideally already have a little bit of ramification. So I would say this one here at the back is a good one. So we're going to keep that. It's already got a split or fork all there. And then we can eliminate the one on the side, and then we'll eliminate this top one, and that will be our 2 branches that we will develop. Moving to the next branch, yeah, we don't really have, there's no buds currently, so let's just prune the tip out, and then on this one we'll just shorten it. So this technique of cutting back to needles, it obviously only works if you've got good, healthy needles. You don't want to cut back to old needles already, because otherwise nothing's going to happen there, because those needles are going to fall off shortly anyway. And then also, this is not really, you do want to get into the habit of decandling, but clearly this tree, it was not done on this tree for some time. But you want to get into the habit of decandling. But in order to get it into that routine, something like this is a solution where you're cutting back to needles. So at the tip here, you will get some buds forming, and then in future, you can then cut back. When you decandle, then you will decandle back to this point, and then you'll start developing your ramification over here. So obviously we can't cut back to something where there's no needles, because of course that'll kill that section. There has to be either a bud that's already quite strong, or otherwise needles that you can cut back to. just been cutting some old, or opening up old cut points where there were branches that were probably being used for the development, thickening of the trunk. And now I'm just recutting those areas to reduce the stub, and then I'm sealing it with the conifer type of putty, which is the one with a green lid. This has got an added hormone in it as well, which is what helps the tree to callus over neatly. These raised areas came about as because they weren't properly reduced with a concave cutter or flattened, and so the resulting scar tissue made much more of a mound than I would prefer to have. So just going through the tree and cleaning up all these old cuts. I've now completed the trimming work, the pruning work. This is an important step in taking the tree forward in terms of its structural development. I didn't mention this earlier, but the tree was recently imported by myself and purchased by a customer. So I'm working on this tree now on behalf of the customer, but it's the first time that I work on this tree. And so you would have noticed quite a marked reduction in the canopy volume. This is because I'm trying to compact the tree and to get ramification to start originating closer into the tree or closer to the trunk. A lot of the growth had become quite leggy, which you just need to bear in mind that obviously the growers of these trees very often are sitting with hundreds, if not thousands, of these trees, and there's only so much that they can actually do. And so it's up to us as bonsai artists now to take the tree to the next level. And part of the process is, of course, now setting up the structure, getting that correct. It's more about getting good branch angles, getting interior budding to take place. The tree was obviously a lot larger, and so I needed to pull that back in again. So now that has been established, and the idea was I did want to repot the tree in spring. It's, as I mentioned earlier, it's late winter now. And I did intend to repot the tree. It's always a good idea to repot a tree when you've just purchased it. You know, the artist or the person that sold you the tree may not have used a growing medium that you have found works for yourself, and so it would be better for you to get it into growing medium that you know the age of, so how long ago it was repotted, and obviously if that medium works for your lifestyle, the amount of times that you can water, how you're watering the rest of the trees. You don't necessarily want to make an exception just for a single tree. So it's a good idea to repot the tree into a new media. The container can stay the same in this case, of course, but I'm not sure if I want to do it now that I have pruned the tree so dramatically. I might just want to see how the tree responds for another season. And then going forward through the growing season, I haven't actually done any needle plucking due to the amount of branches that were removed from the tree. I want to keep as much foliage as I can just to help it through the sort of the period now, just to recover from that. And then based on how strongly it grows, if it grows healthily, then I will decandle it. The decandling process, of course, is going to give me, usually if the tree is strong enough, will give me back budding, and it'll obviously also give me ramification or improve the ramification through buds that would develop at each of those cut sites. If the tree is not healthy enough, then I won't do the decandling, but then at the very latest I will do the repotting in the spring of the following growing season. So I really just need to see how the tree responds and then act accordingly. Either way, it will be fertilized well, although I must add that Japanese red pines are quite vigorous growers, certainly in comparison to Japanese black pines, which are already vigorous, but they are even more vigorous. So with fertilizing them, you need to be a little bit more conservative, possibly half the amount of fertilizer that you would give to a Japanese black pine. That's what you'd give to a Japanese red pine. And otherwise, you're going to get a multitude of buds at each terminal point, and this becomes a problem. It makes a lot more work for you to have to clean those out and to reduce them. So I hope that this short session was of some value to you. Hope you can use the information, and thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done so yet, please do subscribe and like the channel, and hit the notification bell as well, so you will be notified when I upload new videos, which I try to do every Friday. So catch you next Friday. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Goodbye.